Well, greetings, Gran Turismo enjoyers, and today I have a couple of special builds for you. So, in Gran Turismo 7 version 1.59, a new car came out. Well, 4 new cars, and one of them caught my eye. Yeah, that's right. The Chevrolet Corvette C5 was finally added into Gran Turismo 7. After years of waiting, a variant of the C5 Corvette has finally appeared, and we got the whole entire Corvette lineage now. And that also gives us some opportunities to make certain builds for the Corvette itself. So, here it is. Yeah, and alongside that is a K-Truck and Honda CR-V and a Ferrari 812 Superfast. But we'll be focusing on the Corvette today, though. So, our goal here is to make a replica of this car. The Chevy Corvette Guldstrand Edition. And if you have played Forza before, you'll know that the Guldstrand Corvette is a pretty decent car. Yeah, pretty much every Forza guy had gotten this car at one point. So, we're going to make a build of the Guldstrand Corvette. Well, a replica build of the Guldstrand Corvette to pay tribute to that car. You could also get the C5 Corvette in Brand Central. So, we're going to get it at Brand Central, as I do want it to be a low mileage car since it is a limited edition special package. So, I'm going to get into the Speedway White and purchase. So what you want to do is you want to make sure the specs of this car are accurate. Yeah, so you don't want to add ballast. You don't want to add weight reduction to it, since the Guldstrand Corvette has the stock weight. And, well, the Z06 has the default weight of 1406 kilograms. But you do want to add ballast to it. So there it is. Yeah. So what you want to do is go into Tuning Shop. And you want to make sure you get some bore up and stroke up upgrades, as the Guldstrand Edition has a bigger engine. Yeah, I want to replicate the higher displacement engine of the Guldstrand Corvette. But unfortunately, no bore up and stroke up S upgrades. Now we'll add a racing crankshaft and semi-racing muffler so that I can replicate the exhaust. A big loud Corvette exhaust. Yeah, and it already has sports hard equipped, so you're good to go. Yeah, and I do believe the car itself is naturally aspirated. Yeah, don't bother adding any weight reduction upgrades to this car, because you do want the car itself to be accurate to its specifications. Alright, so $499. We're almost there, and get racing discs slotted. Yeah, a bit higher than I wanted it to be, but this car is supposed to be naturally aspirated. And you can reduce the power with the power restrictor. So it's not like it's a big loss. Now we'll get into the body kits. So you want to go up to GT Auto and make sure you get BBS rims. Yeah, if you... Not that it matters, since I will be uploading this car as a style. Yeah, unfortunately you can't get these rims, but you can get these rims. And these rims. Yeah, that is despite the fact that the Corvette had these rims in real life. Yeah, I do believe I want the stock rim width. Well, actually slightly higher. And now we'll apply a wide body kit. Since it is supposed to be a tuned car. Okay. I actually won't bother with the wide body, since I do want the dimensions of the car to follow closely to its real life counterpart. You do want to add some aero parts to it. Okay. Yeah. So yeah. Type B. Side skirts, Type A. Front splitter, stock. Front bumper. And you even got the Guldstrand wing. Now, let's put the livery on the car. I'll be back. Well, here it is. And here's the setup. Yeah, I put 98 on the power restrictor so that it can, well, replicate its real life performance, and 141 on the ballast, since, well, it's known to weigh 1,500 kilograms. It's known to be heavier than the usual Z06 Corvette. And the suspension setup is, well, 88 front ride height and 90 rear ride height. And no camber, since I do want this to feel natural and, well, subtle. Yeah, stock transmission, since I didn't want to bother using a customized transmission, since it's not a race car of any kind. And yeah, it uses stock downforce and sports hard tires, the tires that it comes with. So yeah, I tested out this car myself, and yeah, it does slide a bit, but it is still controllable. But anyways, let's move on to the next Corvette build, the Callaway Corvette, but not the kind of Callaway Corvette that you would normally think. So let's go. So, the car you want to use is the Chevrolet Corvette C4, and unlike the C5, you can't get this car in Brand Central. It has to appear on rotation, so you go up to used car dealership and get the C4 Corvette. That's the Chevrolet Corvette Z01 aka pre-production model. And, well, you're pretty much all set. Luckily, I already bought a Corvette for this build, so all we have to do now is go to tuning shop, and we're not going to bother with weight reduction. Yeah, equip sports hard since it is a pre-tuned car. Yeah, and unlike the last one, we're not going to bother with displacement upgrades. But we'll add a high lift camshaft. Yeah. Add these just in case. Yeah, racing crankshaft. Yeah, semi-racing muffler. Fully customizable computer. It is supposed to be naturally aspirated, by the way. Engine balance tuning. Port polish. And there we go. We're pretty much all set. All we have to do now is add in slotted brakes. There we go. Yeah. Not going to bother with any further upgrades since it's not supposed to be really high end. But anyways, let's get the livery for the Callaway SuperNatural Corvette ready, shall we? Here it is. Yeah, well, it's not the Sledgehammer Corvette, but it's still pretty cool. And yeah, I even tried the fake vents. Yeah, this is a more obscure variant of the Callaway Corvette as, well, anything that isn't the Callaway Sledgehammer Corvette is bound to be forgotten and unloved. Which is a shame considering that this version is pretty cool. Anyways, here's the setup. And yeah, like the Guldstrand Corvette, no camber and no toe angle, since I want this car to feel exactly like a road car. And it has the same amount of power points, well, almost the same amount of power points as the Guldstrand does. Only difference is that it has 10 less horsepower than the Guldstrand. But which one is faster? Well, let's find out. But first, some backstory. Some say that, according to my headcanon, her first race was in the 2005 Pepsi 400, where she filled in for Carrie Earnhardt, who crashed during qualifying and got injured. But all we know is, she's called Bobby Fletcher! First up is the Guldstrand. Now keep in mind, these segments take inspiration from the Stig segments in Top Gear, you know, where he tests the cars. And I wanted to pay tribute to these segments since I actually liked seeing those segments in Top Gear. But anyways, here she goes into the first corner. Yeah, she's pretty much like the Stig, but without the mystery and build-up. Yeah, she's doing pretty well in the corners, although the car does feel understeery due to its heavier weight. Yeah, it is much heavier than the average Z06 due to the fact it has a 7-liter V8 rather than the 5.5 liter V8 that the Z06 comes with. Yeah, she goes into the corner, trying not to overshoot it. Yeah, the Guldstrand is pretty fast, but it also understeers due to the fact it has sports hards, and again, it's heavier than the average Z06 Corvette. Yeah, she's still doing pretty well though, and oh man, you can see the understeer. Yeah, she's just trying not to put it into the grass. Yeah, doing pretty good here. And there she goes into that corner. Yeah, some corners are harder than others. And that other corner, the hairpin corner, is pretty much difficult for any car that has bad brakes. Oh, here she goes into the chicane. Yeah, you have to be careful with that corner. There she goes into the final corner. Taking her time. And across the line! Alrighty, now it's the Sledgehammer's little brother's turn. And yes, I'll be using the same exact base for the Sledgehammer since both the SuperNatural Corvette and the Sledgehammer Corvette share parts. Yeah, here she goes. Into the first corner, which is usually tricky, and it's tricky not to overshoot it. You just have to follow the markers. Yeah, into the second corner. Yeah, it seems to be performing better than the Guldstrand. Yeah, it's pretty much like the Sledgehammer Corvette, except without all the fame and glory behind it. Here she goes into the next corner. And yes, both cars have manual transmissions equipped, and she's using manual. Yeah, using manual gears, and she's doing a pretty good job at shifting. Yeah, trying not to overshoot it into one of the trickiest corners on the circuits. Yeah, went into the rumble strip there. That's a close call for her. There she goes. Doing pretty well. Yeah, I chose teal for this car so that it can feel, well, 90s. Yeah, I want that 90s look. Yeah, again with the close call. Yeah, she does pretty well with the SuperNatural Corvettes. Yeah, and into the chicane. And into the final corner. Doing pretty good there. And across the line! Now, let's see where that puts both Corvettes on the leaderboard. Yeah, so the SuperNatural Corvette manages to have a faster lap time, a slightly faster lap time at 2:18.612 compared to the Guldstrand's 2:18.776. Yeah, the Guldstrand is a bit slower due to the heavier weight, although the Guldstrand does have 10 more horsepower than the SuperNatural Corvette does. And the SuperNatural Corvette is now the fastest record holder of the leaderboard, a record that was previously occupied by the Lenny-Mobile. Yeah, the Loading-Mobile is no longer the fastest car on the leaderboard, although it's subject to change. So far, the slowest car on the leaderboard is the PlayStation car, aka the Afila prototype. So yeah, both Corvettes are great sub 600 pp builds, especially the Guldstrand. I can see the Guldstrand being used at Tokyo Expressway 600. And the sports hard tires definitely give it good longevity. But anyways, let's take both cars to Special Stage Route X. Now that both Corvettes are tested, it's time to take them on the top speed run. Okay, that's bad. Alrighty, it's time to take both Corvettes to the top. Okay. Let's try again. Now that both Corvettes are tested, it's time to see which one is faster. Yeah, even though the Callaway SuperNatural Corvette has a faster lap time, as you saw previously, what about top speed, you might ask? Well, we're going to find that out right away. Yeah, first up, it's the Guldstrand. Yeah, and I also had to equip a racing... Yeah, a fully customizable manual gearbox. Because the default gearing was... Yeah, it was very high. Yeah, see, final gear is 484 kilometers per hour. So yeah, I didn't bother with manual gears, but here's the setup, again, if you're interested. Yeah, 88 in the front and 90 in the rear, 141 kilograms of ballast, and 98 on the power restrictor. So yeah, let's see which Corvette is faster. Yeah, they also did a great job on the interior. It definitely replicates the C5's quirky interior design. Yeah, this was back when car designers actually made good-looking interiors. Yeah, nowadays they kind of feel samey, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I didn't bother with manual gears. Well, I mean manual gear adjustments. I just left the gears as is. I heard that manual adjustments help improve acceleration, but I don't usually do it though. That's up for debate. I don't think Doubtinator does manual gear adjustments either. Yeah. Here goes on the hill. And yeah, I've been testing this car non-stop. To see which gear setup is the best. I highly recommend you to get fully customizable gears for these kind of builds because, well, default gears are really high. That's the problem with a lot of American cars in the Gran Turismo series. They always have high gear ratios. it seems to be pretty fast at 205 miles per hour. Yeah, it fell back a bit. And yeah, this car will definitely bring about memories if you've ever played any of the early Forza games. And yeah, this car was actually not that hard to replicate, although the hardest part is the livery. Because it has a two-tone gold and blue colorization, and it was really hard to do the door decals and the front decals, but I think I got it down. Yeah, top speed of this car is 207 miles per hour. Now let's brake. And test out the Callaway SuperNatural Corvette, aka the Sledgehammer's little brother. Yeah, I will be doing a Sledgehammer build sometime. Alrighty. Change car. And get the ZR1, aka the Callaway SuperNatural Corvette. I'll be using a similar setup for the Sledgehammer. Yeah, I also use the same fully customizable manual transmission. I chose the manual because, well, I want that classic old school dog leg gearbox feel. That's why I picked the fully customizable manual instead of the racing transmission, because I want that dog leg feel. Yeah, we tested out the top speed of the Callaway SuperNatural Corvette. Yeah, it's not the SuperNatural LM with the weird looking headlights. Yeah, I have no idea why Callaway decided to make a version of this Corvette with a different looking front end. But anyways, it does look kind of similar to the Sledgehammer. And this design itself is actually meant to be a basis to the monstrous Sledgehammer Corvettes. Yeah, stay tuned for when I get around to making the Sledgehammer. Yeah. Of course, when you're in the shadow of the Callaway Sledgehammer Corvette, you're bound to be forgotten and unloved. Yeah, similar top speed to the Guldstrand. Actually, it's a bit slower than the Guldstrand, despite having a 10 horsepower deficit compared to the Guldstrand. And there people thought that more horsepower equals faster. Well, ask anyone who has a BMW M5, the newest one. Yeah, it's got over 700 horsepower, but it is very slow due to the fact that it's big, it's heavy, and it weighs as much as a freaking full-size pickup truck. No joke. So yeah, both Corvettes perform pretty well. Yeah, and I think in my opinion the SuperNatural Corvette is on par with the Nismo 400R in terms of performance. Just like the Guldstrand, I didn't bother adding any weight reduction to the car itself since I wanted it to be a road car. Yeah, some pre-tuned cars are lighter, but this car does not have weight reduction upgrades applied in real life, so I want it to be faithful to its real life counterpart. Yeah, it's got the same top speed as the Guldstrand. Yeah, and both cars perform similarly. And they both fit into the sub 600 pp range. So yeah, let's break this car since it can't go any higher than 207. So yeah, let's look at two pre-tuned Corvettes. Yeah, these are my first ever replica builds. And like I said, one of them is going to be the basis for a future build. More specifically, the Callaway Sledgehammer Corvette. Yeah, in my opinion, I think the Guldstrand definitely looks better because it has a unique paint scheme, and I do like the gold on dark blue. Yeah, the paint scheme is also custom and pretty much unique to this car, as I couldn't find its exact color in the game. But anyways, I'm going to be signing off for now, and in case you're wondering, yeah, it's also great for the Corvette 1-make race. I'll be posting a video of that Guldstrand in that race later, so yeah. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell just in case you haven't already done so. And here's a link to another Corvette build that I've done. And all I have to say now is, catch you guys next time, and peace out.